Ladies and gentlemen, I am the one and only DJ Storms, and I would like to welcome each and every single one of you back here to the channel on YouTube.com. As of course, you already know who I am, Mr. Controversy and the operator of the best damn Twitter handle, Wait for it. To mankind. This is the official Lightning Flash update for February 29th, 2020. A leap year, ladies and gentlemen. First time I think I am doing an LFU on the 29th exactly for a leap year. Few announcements before we get into the nitty-gritty here on the Lightning Flash update. Of course, we got the 7 weekly shows, and then I got some news, rumors, and reports. A rather newsworthy week, and not in a good way, for professional wrestling, specifically with the WWE main roster product. But I will not be doing a Lightning Flash update next week. I am going to be studying for an intermediate accounting exam and a taxation exam for the duration of next week, so I'm going to be fairly inactive on social media, and I am going to instead substitute the rundown for the Elimination Chamber for next Saturday's upload, in which my friend Earl Cole from Brooklyn, shout out to him, I know he's watching, he's one of the most loyal members of the DJ Storms posse I think that I've ever seen. He's going to be appearing on the rundown for Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber is not looking good whatsoever, considering the matches recently announced this week. And to be quite honest, I don't even know how they're going to redeem themselves next week. I don't expect them to redeem themselves at all. This WrestleMania season has taken a turn for the worst, if I do say so myself. But regardless of that, no Lightning Flash update next week. I have to put that aside for my exams, and Earl Cole is instead starring on the rundown for Elimination Chamber. That's going to be next Saturday. I'm planning on uploading it around 2 p.m. Eastern Time for anyone who is interested. And then, of course, on the 14th, I may not do a Lightning Flash update. I may do a little news, rumors, and reports edition of the Lightning Flash update. I will not do a weekly show review section of it. I'll probably upload that on Friday. I will keep you guys uploaded on that. And then, of course, on the 14th, I did start promoting it last night. I will be guest starring on No Show Wrestling Podcast. I would like to thank Mr. Luke Allen for offering me the opportunity, coming to me on Instagram and offering me the opportunity to appear on their show. I greatly appreciate it. I am honored. So if you have any questions for me when I appear on the No Show Wrestling Podcast, be sure to send it to their inbox on Twitter. Their Twitter is at No Show Wrestling, just like that. Go send their questions to their DM box on Twitter, and I'll be sure to talk to them. We'll review those questions, and hey, your questions could make it on the podcast. Also, on the 21st of March, I plan on doing a live Lightning Flash update. Again, I'm going to do a Lightning Flash update live once again with Smiley Baby Boo, aka CM Smiley. And for those of you, you definitely know who she is. She's planning on bringing back her own podcast. I'm planning on having her on the Lightning Flash update on the 21st. And then, of course, on March 25th, I will be at AEW Dynamite in the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. So for anyone who is interested, please hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Facebook. And what we are going to do is we are going to organize a special vlog. We're going to organize some fan interviews, perhaps. I haven't done those in a long, long time. And we are going to perhaps get you on the channel. You could appear on the greatest YouTube channel known to mankind. So, if you're interested, hit me up on Twitter. Of course, my Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at HistoryMakerDJS. Follow me on Instagram and Periscope at TheDJStorms. If you missed the Thunderscope live stream, go check that out. Thunder did an excellent job with Youth Gone Wild. And then, of course, we got my Facebook. Add me on Facebook. All links are in the description. If you missed the rundown for AEW Revolution, the link is also in the description. Revolution, of course, is tonight in a few hours. You are not going to want to miss that show. I am very excited for it. They actually announced Dark Order versus SCU on the buy-in pre-show in which case I'm calling the Dark Order to win that, because I did not get the announcement before I started recording the rundown for Revolution on Thursday, and I had it set to premiere yesterday, which it did, at 3 p.m. Eastern Time when I was at work. But I'm calling the Dark Order to win that match. And finally, for collaborations and business inquiries, my email. Send me an email, StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. Now, enough of the self-brand promotion. Why don't we get straight into the festivities here with the weekly show reviews. 7 shows to go over. Let's start with Monday Night Raw. I will not be talking too much about Super Showdown, specifically the entirety of the show as a whole. I got Super Showdown playing in the background, actually. All I will say is the middle of the show was actually fairly decent, but the entire show as a whole, it's just like all these other Saudi Arabian shows. It's a complete waste of time. The best show was still the first Saudi Arabian show, the Greatest Royal Rumble. But anyway, I'm going to be drinking a lot of that ice water today. Monday Night Raw. It wasn't necessarily bad. We did get some decent stuff sprinkled in here and there, but by the end of it, it was, again, pretty much the same thing. I don't really know what else I could say about Monday Night Raw outside of it being the usual lackluster show that it usually is. I mean, it's certainly better than SmackDown. SmackDown this week was a complete abomination outside of one match, a halfway decent match between Kofi Kingston and Robert Roode, which we'll talk about when we get to the SmackDown portion of the Lightning Flash update. And stick around till the end. I do have a lot to say about the supposed WrestleMania plan for Drew McIntyre and what he is headed towards after he eventually defeats Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Randy Orton kicked off the show, says that lately his emotions have become unbalanced. He talked about the last time that he was in Winnipeg, talked about how he was punched in the face by a man whose name was Adam, but everyone would come to know him as Edge. And then Raw, 15 years later, he took the opportunity for Edge to appear in his home country of Canada. He apologized for what he did before Kevin Owens came out, and this is where things actually started to get very interesting. He says he's dealt with a lot of delusional people, did Kevin Owens, but he says that he has an issue with Randy Orton himself because of what he did to Edge. Owens says that he watched when Edge retired, and at that point he was making a living for himself doing this sport. And when Edge returned, he didn't even want to go into the Royal Rumble. He wanted to watch as a fan, and he wanted to step into the ring with Edge. He was finally happy that Edge was back because now he had the opportunity to work with Edge in the ring, but Randy Orton took that away from him. He asks Orton why he did it. Orton gets in his face and he says, "You think you know me." Just a little prick nature of Randy Orton right there, which is fantastic. Just a little subtle jab at Edge, rubbing salt in the wound there. I love how Randy Orton does that. Kevin Owens ended up challenging Randy Orton. Randy Orton accepts, and he said, "Not right this minute," and he walked away. I really love how they incorporated the real-life fandom and the real-life passion that Owens has for pro wrestling and the real-life respect that he has for Edge and the admiration that he has for Edge into this promo and into this storyline. And it really made the segment feel real and genuine. And that is something that is definitely needed in the WWE nowadays. I thought the segment was very well done, very well produced. And we got a match later on in the evening which ended up flopping right on its face, which we'll talk about in a minute. Humberto Carrillo versus Angel Garza. This match was great, and I really love how they let these guys go out there and actually wrestle. Humberto Carrillo sent Garza into the barricade. Coming back from commercial, or during the commercial break actually, Humberto delivered a drop kick off the top rope. Garza hit a springboard reverse superplex and super kick combination for a 2. Carrillo was popped up upside down on the apron, and Garza caught him with a super kick, and Carrillo just crumbled. And I love how Carrillo sold that. We had a trading contest. They were trading kicks on the apron before Garza got the advantage and hit a beautiful moonsault to the outside. Humberto hit a Spanish fly for a 2 in the ring. Garza hit an avalanche Spanish fly for a 2. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." We had a sequence similar to what happened with Asuka and Becky Lynch back in the middle of February where they were trading pinfalls back and forth. Garza ended up winning as he should. Garza gets the win in a great match, very well produced match, and at this rate, Garza could be in top contention for becoming the new United States Champion at WrestleMania. I would not mind if WWE did Garza versus Andrade one-on-one. Yes, it may be heel versus heel, but are you really going to complain after everything that Garza has put forth? Are you really going to complain after everything that Andrade has put forth? These two are two of the most underrated talents on Monday Night Raw. Why not put them out there singularly in a United States Championship match? I think it would be a great mid-card championship match. If you want, you can have them kick off the show. But I can definitely see a ladder match for the United States Championship happening at WrestleMania. As far as Humberto Carrillo goes, I mean, what really is there to say about Humberto? I mean, they had this match at Super Showdown again. Garza ended up winning, as he should. But at the end of the day, Humberto, no one's going to care about Humberto. Humberto is done. Humberto's done. Humberto has had absolutely zero luck on Monday Night Raw. Humberto, I don't even think that, even if they decided to give Humberto a few string of wins to try and gain his momentum back, I don't even think that will help him. The guy has been losing and losing and losing and losing to Rollins, losing to Styles, losing to Andrade, losing to Garza. The guy is not going to amount to anything, and it sucks because the guy is extremely talented. He was one of the most underrated stars in the WWE when he was on 205 Live. He was putting on great matches on 205 Live. Now look at him. Moving on, Ricochet versus Luke Gallows. This was an academic 5-minute match. This was done merely to promote Ricochet's match against Brock Lesnar at Super Showdown, which he ended up losing in a minute and a half. And I don't really want to spend too much time about this, but I need to say something. You had Ricochet defeat Rollins, Lashley, Gallows, Anderson, only to go into Super Showdown and lose to Brock Lesnar in a minute and a half. What was the fucking point of building Ricochet up to a point where, you know, the casual fans more likely than not would take him seriously, but the smart individuals realized that Ricochet didn't even stand a fucking chance? What was the point of pairing Ricochet with Brock Lesnar in a matchup for the WWE Championship if you weren't going to produce an actual match and you were just going to have Brock Lesnar deliver 4 suplexes and an F5 to defeat Ricochet in a minute and a half? What was the point of making a video package if you weren't going to give us a match similar to the matchup at Survivor Series between AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar, or Daniel Bryan and Brock Lesnar, or Finn Balor and Brock Lesnar? The video package was longer than the actual match. And I don't throw this term around. I never use this term. I never, ever, ever use this term, and you know that. But Ricochet is buried. He's done. Ricochet is absolutely done. I don't know what Ricochet did to deserve this treatment. I don't know who he pissed off, but Ricochet's treatment, ever since the United States Championship feud with AJ Styles was over, has been inexcusable, incredibly piss poor. And to be quite honest with you, if I was Ricochet, when his contract is up, I don't even know when his contract is up. I don't know if it's a 3-year contract or a 5-year contract, but whenever it's up, I wouldn't even bother signing a new deal with this company. Matter of fact, fuck waiting for his contract to sign up. If I was Ricochet right now, I'd walk. I would walk. Vince McMahon showed you exactly what he thought of Ricochet. A minute and a half. A minute and a half, not even producing an actual match, building up Ricochet all throughout the month, having him beat everyone. Having him beat everyone only to lose in a minute and a half. Ricochet is done. There is no recovering from it. There is not going to be a single person that is going to take Ricochet seriously. You may as well walk. If he's not going to be sent to NXT and Triple H is not going to hold him again, then he might as well walk. There is nothing that Ricochet is going to amount to on the main roster this year, or any other year. And it's a damn shame. It's a damn shame. So after Ricochet defeated Luke Gallows, I didn't even bother going over the match. After Ricochet defeated Luke Gallows, the OC was in the back going over strategy until Aleister Black walked by. The OC got in his face, and Styles specifically, Styles got in his face, and he said, "We are the official, the original, the only club that matters." And then the OC beat down Aleister Black, and Black limped into his matchup against Eric Rowan later in the night. And I actually thought they were setting up for Styles and Black at WrestleMania. And then we got the Kuwait Trophy Gauntlet match, the King of the Mountain Trophy Gauntlet match at fucking Super Showdown. I don't know why. Can you blame me for hesitating on that? Can you blame me for forgetting what the show's name was? That's how irrelevant the show was. WWE Champion Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman addressed the WWE Universe. Imagine what it was going to be like when Brock Lesnar owes Ricochet. Imagine what it's going to be like when Brock Lesnar feels like he owes Ricochet. That's what Paul Heyman said. Heyman is asking why the match is so special is a great question, even for Canadians. I love Paul Heyman, being the prick advocate that he is. He promised that Lesnar will beat Ricochet and says Drew McIntyre will realize, then, now, and forever, your reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Heavyweight Champion of the world, Brock Lesnar. Standard Brock Lesnar promo. Nothing too special. Paul Heyman is great. I could listen to Paul Heyman speak all day long. He is one of the best promos of all time. Aleister Black versus Eric Rowan. I don't even understand why we got this match again. I mean, to a certain extent, I did understand why, and I understand that they were trying to make Aleister Black look like a beast by being attacked by the OC and then overcoming the odds of Rowan. It was a decent match, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it really wasn't needed. And I can say with confidence that this push for Rowan, more likely than not, is over. If you even want to call it a push. Rowan was in control of Aleister Black coming back from commercial. Aleister Black came back with a series of punt kicks. Black with a sliding knee, springboard moonsault, jumping knee for a 2. Rowan hit a modified jackhammer for a 2. Rowan ran along the outside into the steps and knocked over his own pen. He put his pen back and he apologized to whatever the fuck was in this pen. He actually got back into the ring after he powerbombed Aleister Black into the post. And then he threw Aleister Black back into the ring. He looked like a complete moron checking on his pen instead of focusing on Aleister Black. He was then on the receiving end of 2 black masses, and Aleister Black wins. Decent match, but it was really nothing different than we saw last week. Aleister Black then challenged AJ Styles to a match, and the match was made for next week. I don't understand why WWE would just blow off this match on a random episode of Raw. This is a WrestleMania-worthy match. This match could easily main event WrestleMania for the WWE Championship if they wanted to. You really think that Styles and The Undertaker is a better WrestleMania match than Aleister Black and AJ Styles? What value does The Undertaker hold right now? The Undertaker and his mystique, regardless of who The Undertaker is, The Undertaker does not belong in a ring anymore. The Undertaker has outlived his usefulness. Let the man retire. Let the man live his life. AJ Styles deserves so much more and so much better than The Undertaker, regardless of how good AJ Styles is, and regardless if AJ Styles could lead a fucking broomstick to a 5-star match. It doesn't matter. No one, and I mean no one, no matter what WWE does, no one is going to care about a Styles versus Undertaker match. They are not going to build a story that is interesting enough for a Styles-Undertaker match. Now maybe a Styles Black match. That match could get over based off of work rate alone. If you're talking about in-ring storytelling and the story behind it, the characters behind it, then Black versus The Undertaker. If you absolutely had to get Undertaker on the show, then Black versus Undertaker was the right move. But they didn't do that. Completely wasted. Wasting a WrestleMania match on a random episode of Raw. You're telling me you don't want a match that could possibly be a match of the year contender between Black and Styles? But instead you're going with Styles and The Undertaker just for the sake of getting The Undertaker on WrestleMania. Stupid. Drew McIntyre, he was interviewed backstage. He talked about his first run, and I love the fact that he's bringing up how he felt entitled, how he was fired, talks about how he had to work for 3 years to get back into the WWE. He talked about eliminating Lesnar, and he said that he needed it because he needed to live up to the potential that people said that he had. So he's putting all the pressure on himself to live up to all this potential that people saw in him, but he hasn't yet reached. And he promised to win the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, no matter who he's facing. R-Truth was out. He was going to host Truth TV with Lashley and Lana. Lana says that he's having a match with Lashley. Truth did John Cena's 5 moves of doom, but he was on the receiving end of a spear from Lashley, and Lashley defeated Truth. Nothing special there. Next week, Rey Mysterio and Humberto Carrillo versus Andrade and Angel Garza was announced. We had the WWE Women's Elimination Chamber contract signing. We had the 5 women out there besides Baszler. Asuka rattled off some material in Japanese. The women began to sign the contract before Shayna Baszler came out. She entered through the crowd. She had a stare down with Natty before Asuka shoved down Natty. And this was probably the best part of this entire segment. Asuka got in Shayna Baszler's face and she said, "Bite me," which I laughed my ass off at. That was the best part of this entire segment. Outside of Asuka getting in Shayna Baszler's face and saying, "Bite me," this segment was a complete waste of time. So we had a big brawl. Shayna, she remained unbothered. She was just walking around. She put her hands up and she's looking around, clapping and laughing as everyone is beating the shit out of one another. Becky came out, and she came out in the most cringe-like fashion possible with her Minecraft sunglasses, and she was smiling. She walks down to the ring, and we get a brawl with Shayna Baszler to close this contract signing. First off, I understand that you can't just give Shayna Baszler a women's championship match. I understand that. But for fuck's sake, don't you think that it would have been a little smarter to actually have the women in the chamber build up some legitimate wins to develop a sense of credibility for each of them, so that way people wouldn't be questioning why they're even in the chamber, and this wouldn't look like the most predictable match on the fucking card, and possibly the most predictable match of the fucking year? Ruby Riott hasn't had a match in a year. She has not had one match. This is her first match back. First match back. Liv Morgan, what does she do? Beat Lana? Lana is the most worthless signee in the women's division right now. The most worthless signee in the women's division right now. Sarah Logan? Wasn't Sarah Logan getting buried by Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley back-to-back weeks just a month ago? But yet she's in this match. Natalya just lost 2 back-to-back matches to Asuka and Kairi Sane. Back-to-back weeks on Monday Night Raw. Why isn't Kairi Sane in this match? Why is Asuka in this match, but Kairi Sane's not? If anything, Kairi Sane in this match would have made the match that much more better and a little bit more unpredictable. You could have had a stare down between Shayna Baszler and Kairi Sane. They have a history with one another. You could have had a match between Asuka and Kairi Sane, the current women's tag team champions, which I don't know why those titles are even still a thing. But regardless, why isn't Kairi Sane in this match, but Natalya and Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan are? Outside of Asuka and Baszler, none of these women have any credibility. None of these women have any legitimacy. And Becky Lynch looks like a dumbass. Becky Lynch looks like a dumbass. I didn't even want to say this. I didn't even want to bring this up, but I'm sorry. Becky Lynch has become the new Seth Rollins. I'm sorry. I just need to point that out there. Becky Lynch has become the new Seth Rollins. Ever since that feud with Sasha Banks ended back in October, she has been on a slow decline. Becky Lynch is not the same as she was a year ago. Becky Lynch and her booking has been shit. Dog shit. Becky Lynch right now is the female Seth Rollins, and sooner rather than later, the crowd is going to turn on her just like they did Rollins and Shayna Baszler. The sooner that Shayna Baszler wins the title, the better. I think if this keeps up with Becky Lynch, she's going to have no choice but to turn heel after WrestleMania. She's going to have no choice but to turn heel after WrestleMania. Becky Lynch's character is valueless. It's valueless. I swear to God, it's the same thing that what happened with Kofi Kingston last year. Kofi Kingston got brutally attacked by Samoa Joe, but yet going into Extreme Rules, he's still flinging pancakes and gyrating his fucking hips. Becky Lynch got bit in the back of the neck. Shayna Baszler did something that Samoa Joe didn't even think about doing. Shayna Baszler did something more ruthless than anything that Samoa Joe did to Kofi Kingston, and yet Becky's still coming out smiling and strutting as if she owns the fucking place. A little intensity, a little anger, please. The woman bit your neck. The woman bit your neck, and there was blood dripping from your neck and dripping from the woman's mouth. And you're coming out there with Minecraft sunglasses, strutting as if you own Monday Night Raw. Terrible. Street Profits come out, says there's only 4 words that matter, and that's "we want the smoke." Murphy versus Angelo Dawkins took place first. Murphy and Dawkins started out hot. Dawkins hit a spine buster before Rollins interfered. Montez Ford, he got involved. He said that Dawkins knocked down Murphy so hard that they took away his first name. And then we got Rollins and Ford, which was actually a damn good match. Montez Ford really showed you how much value he really had in this matchup. They had Ford take out both Rollins and Murphy with a tope con hero. Montez with a series of drop kicks sending Rollins to the outside. Murphy and Dawkins got ejected from ringside before Rollins hit a buckle bomb on Ford for a 2 coming back from commercial. We had a buckle bomb to Ford on the barricade, or the barricade bomb rather, not a buckle bomb, a barricade bomb. Ford mounted a comeback. We had a DDT on Rollins that stood Rollins straight up on his head for a 2. Sunset flip powerbomb. Rollins landed right on his neck, actually. That actually looked brutal. We had Montez Ford going up to the top. He hit a beautiful frog splash, and I love the height that Montez Ford gets on the frog splash. He missed. Rollins hit the stomp for the win. Damn good match here between Montez Ford and Seth Rollins heading into Super Showdown, which ultimately resulted in the Street Profits losing if you didn't watch it. Beth Phoenix is returning to Raw next week. A lot of people in the community, I've been scrolling through my Twitter timeline, and a lot of people in the community have been stating that they want to see Beth Phoenix get RKO'd. And I have to agree with everyone on my Twitter feed. I am in the same boat as them. I want to see an RKO to Beth Phoenix. And yeah, I may be a little greedy here, but I also want to see a punt. I mean, come on. Beth Phoenix was in the Women's Royal Rumble for about a half hour, and her entire head, the entire back portion of her head was covered in blood. I think she can handle an RKO or a punt. I think she'd be fine. Owens and Randy Orton, this was extremely disappointing. This didn't even go 10 minutes. Rollins, Murphy, and the AOP came out to watch the match. Owens was aided by the Viking Raiders and the Street Profits. We had Rollins coming back, and the referee did a fast 3 count with Randy Orton winning, and Randy Orton walked away. Rollins, he was staring down the ref after the ref took a chair out of Kevin Owens' hand. Owens threw the referee in the ring, ripped off his referee shirt, and found out that the referee was a Seth Rollins disciple. Rollins was saying, "Oh, I haven't seen that man in my life." Owens said, "Okay, fuck this." He gave the referee a stunner and then powerbombed the referee through a table. And that was the end of Monday Night Raw. I don't know where Rollins got this referee, but the entire presentation of this whole entire thing was ridiculous, especially when this referee isn't even going to amount to anything in the following weeks leading up to WrestleMania. So this ending was extremely disappointing. I didn't really expect much of it, and I didn't really think much of it. Quite frankly, I want to forget about it, because we got Revolution tonight. It wasn't necessarily a bad show. We got some decent matches here and there. It was just the same old shit that we're accustomed to. I mean, they're certainly doing a better job than SmackDown, don't get me wrong, but, it's not necessarily exciting. And that was pretty much that. So let's move on to AEW Dark. This was actually a damn good show. We had Jimmy Havoc versus Marco Stunt kicking off the show. Marco, he was using his quickness. In the beginning. We had 2 suicide dives and a suicide DDT. Luther and Mel came out to watch the match for about 30 seconds before they went to the back. Havoc caught Marco with a crossface as Marco was coming off the middle rope for a springboard. We had a fisherman suplex by Jimmy Havoc for a 2, and I actually like that Jimmy Havoc is starting to employ some more wrestling moves into his arsenal. He's slowly coming along. Marco Stunt mounted a comeback with a double stomp to the back. However, Havoc dodged a suicide dive, hit the Acid Rainmaker, and Havoc wins. Decent match, nothing really too special. It was decent. Havoc gets the win. I really don't care whatever it is that Havoc and Luther are going to be doing in the future. AEW Dark for the 26th actually premiered yesterday, and I'm probably going to go back and watch that after I finish studying, probably before Revolution. Luther was actually in action, so they're planning on utilizing Luther in the ring, actually. And if that's the case, then I guess if it's a no DQ match, it could make for a rather fun match. We'll see what happens. Dark Order versus the Strong Hearts. This was a damn good tag team match, and the Dark Order continues to be on a roll. The Dark Order continues to build their momentum, and I'm going to be quite honest with you, I would much rather see the Dark Order take the titles off of Hangman and Omega than the Young Bucks. I'm going to be quite honest. The Dark Order have been doing some exceptional work, and the Dark Order right now, the Dark Order, they are the best heel tag team in the division. Dark Order was in control. We had a spinning Uranagi to T-Hawk from Stu Grayson. Stu Grayson's very underrated, by the way. T-Hawk came back with a sit-out spinebuster. Shima came in. We had double knees to Uno, double tope suicidas from the Strong Hearts. We had T-Hawk blasting Grayson with a couple of chops. We had the perfect driver from Shima to Evil Uno, and Evil Uno was able to kick out. We had a DDT to Shima on the apron by Stu Grayson before the Dark Order delivered the fatality on T-Hawk for the 1, 2, 3 damn good tag team match. Strong Hearts are a very underrated tag team. I love watching them compete. The Dark Order, what can I say about the Dark Order? They have really come into their own as a heel tag team in the AEW tag team division, and I expect them to win tonight against the team of SCU, Frankie Kazarian and Scorpio Sky. Joey Janela versus Kip Sabian, Falls Count Anywhere. This was a very fun Falls Count Anywhere match, and they did a very good job at making not just Janela, not just Sabian, but Penelope Ford. Penelope Ford is fucking fearless. She looked legit as ever in this match as well. Janela actually low-blowed Sabian during his entrance out of nowhere. Kip accidentally took out Penelope as he had Janela in a fireman's carry. Penelope Ford, she soared off the fucking stage as if she was fucking Ricochet. She dove off the stage with a huge crossbody onto Janela. Janela ended up sending Sabian into the stairs after we had a huge brawl in the crowd. We had a chair being introduced, and Janela, he moved out of the way when Sabian went for a drop kick on a chair. He moved out of the way and Sabian went ass first onto a steel chair. Janela sat Sabian down and took a prosthetic leg out of the crowd and just hit Sabian with the leg, which was actually pretty funny. Kip Sabian, he brought out a table, and the table was set up near the apron. Janela was on the ring apron. Sabian was standing on the table on the outside, and he delivered a twisting neck breaker off of the apron through the table while he was still standing on the table. So he flipped him over almost into a modified jackhammer, but they called it a twisting neck breaker, and Janela was able to kick out. Janela catches Penelope Ford. He tossed Penelope Ford onto Sabian, and we had two tables on the outside, and neither of them broke. I'm telling you, Sabian and Ford landed hard. It looked brutal. The tables did not break. We had an I am the table phrase from Excalibur, which I laughed at. And then Janela took a kendo stick and swung for the fucking fences as if he was playing T-ball. Whacked Sabian right on the side of the head. Looked brutal. You could not pay me all the money in the world to take that shot. And Joey Janela wins. Very fun Falls Count Anywhere match. Joey Janela and Kip Sabian, they did a very good job. I've very much been liking this feud. I've very much been interested in what they've been doing. They are two very underrated competitors. And right now, the AEW mid-card is very, 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 very strong. I'm telling you, they need to institute a mid-card title. Until they do, I am not going to stop saying it. You got Janela, you got Sabian, you got Havoc, you got Darby, you got Guevara, you got Spears, you got Cutler, you got Pac. The mid-card division is strong. You need a mid-card title, and you need it now. Joey Janela can't just be floating around doing nothing. He needs something to do. But this was a very fun match. Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall versus Shawn Spears and Peter Avalon. This was also another fun match. Nothing too special here, but it was fun. Dustin Rhodes and QT were in control with a couple of jab combinations. Spears isolated Marshall for the mid-portion of this match before Dustin Rhodes came in. We had a power slam to Avalon and Spears. Dustin Rhodes with a huge code red for a 2. Spears with the frog splash, a twisting frog splash actually, for a 2. Spears actually walked off on Peter Avalon, and Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall pick up the win in a fun match, fun show for AEW Dark, and that was pretty much it. I'm going to watch the most recent edition of AEW Dark whenever I get the chance. It's only about 50 minutes, but, you know, we'll see how that plays out. We'll see how this Luther and Havoc storyline plays out. We'll see what they do with the tag team division. I think Private Party is also in action against Shawn Spears and Brandon Cutler. We'll see how it plays out. AEW Dynamite. This was the go-home show for AEW Revolution, and they did an exceptional job with this go-home show. They put every single last ounce of effort that they had into this go-home show, and I was very impressed with how well they laid out all the matches, and they built up everything going into Revolution. We started off with the 30-minute Iron Man match between Pac and Omega. This was wrestling at its finest. Wrestling at its finest. There is no one that can tell me that this match was not a good match. This match was fantastic. It could probably go down as one of the best pro wrestling matches of the year, and probably one of the best matches that Dynamite has produced in its short history. I would even go so far as to say that this was the second best match in AEW history. The first, Cody and Dustin. I don't think there's ever going to be a match that's going to be a better matchup than Cody and Dustin, rather. That match had some of the best storytelling that I think I've ever seen. This match had some of the best in-ring work in AEW history. We had back and forth chain wrestling to start off the match. Omega with a huge tope con hero. Pac came back with a moonsault DDT on the floor, and I swear to God, I don't know how Omega is able to sell the DDT landing right on his head. I swear, if I did that, I'd probably be paralyzed. Pac was in control for about 7 minutes before they started exchanging forearms. Omega with a pair of V-triggers and a Tiger Driver 98 for a 2. Pac kicked out of the electric chair German suplex before he dropped Omega on his face on the top turnbuckle. Omega was going for the 10 punches in the corner, and Pac slipped through and tripped up Omega's legs. Omega went face first on the top turnbuckle. Omega kicked out of Omega actually hit a couple of knee strikes on Pac before Pac kicked out. Pac actually used a chair to give Omega the first fall before Pac delivered a black arrow to tie it up. This was classic heel work from Pac. Classic strategic heel work from Pac. You don't normally see that nowadays. Pac with a strategic move to wear down Omega with the chair, sacrifice a fall, and then tie it up with the black arrow. Picture perfect storytelling right there. There is a method to Pac's madness. That was excellently done. We had a Falcon Arrow off the apron to the floor, which looked brutal. I'm surprised Omega is still able to walk after that. Pac actually brought in a table while the referees were attending to Omega, and he hit a shooting star press through a table. Both men made it back into the ring before the count of 10. Pac then delivered a Poison Rana and a Satellite DDT into the Brutalizer, but Omega made it to the ropes. Omega, he was able to fight back, but Pac locked in the Brutalizer again, but Omega did not tap out. He survived the time limit. It was a 1-1 draw, and then Justin Roberts announced that the match will continue under sudden death rules. We had 3 knees, 3 V-triggers to Pac. Pac kicked out. Omega ended up winning with the one-winged angel. Fantastic wrestling match. One of the best matches of the year. Perhaps the second best matchup in AEW history. And for sure, the best television match that AEW has ever produced. I loved it. They did an excellent job. And realistically, yes, Pac should have won this. But after that, are you really going to complain? After a match like that, I don't know how anyone could complain regardless of who won. Yes, Pac should have won, but at the end of the day, if you're going to take a loss, that's how you take a loss. This is a great match. Great match from start to finish. Pac was interviewed by Tony Schiavone. Orange Cassidy came out, and then Pac just dropped Cassidy, obviously setting up a match between Orange Cassidy and Pac at Revolution, which I think is going to be very, very good. And let me tell you something. Orange Cassidy, right now, what he's doing, yes, I realize that he is pretty much trying to get by without doing anything, but I've seen what Orange Cassidy can do in the ring. For real, when he actually tries. The guy can wrestle, and I think this is going to be a very fun match. Jurassic Express versus the Inner Circle. Jurassic Express, they took the fight to the Inner Circle very early. Santana and Ortiz, though, they came back with a double flapjack on Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus got the hot tag after Marco Stunt was isolated for the mid-portion of this matchup. We had a super kick German suplex combination on Sami Zayn. A kudo driver to Sami before Santana broke it up. The Jurassic Express were able to take out Proud and Powerful for the moment before Sami grabbed a sock filled with quarters. Darby Allin came out of nowhere, took the sock out of Sammy Guevara's hand, and Jungle Boy rolled up Sami for the win. Jurassic Express get the win. Very fun 6-man tag, and Jurassic Express build some momentum heading into the rest of 2020. And Jurassic Express right now, if they are not tag team champions by the end of the year, with the momentum that they have been picking up recently, I don't know how anyone in AEW can justify booking the tag team division. This is the best babyface tag team right now in the division. The Jurassic Express, they are the Daniel Bryan faction of the division. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, they are the next tag team champions at All Out 2, and if not at All Out 2, then by the end of the year. That's why I said, have the Dark Order win the tag team titles from Omega and Hangman. The Young Bucks, they don't need it. I'm not going to be mad if they win, but they don't need it. The Young Bucks, they are great at what they do. They're already established. If you have the Dark Order as tag team champions, when they eventually win the tag team championships, the Dark Order is going to be as legitimate as ever. The Dark Order wins the tag team championships. Jurassic Express goes into All Out 2 or the end of the year against the best heel tag team in the division. They're going to be that much more over. You need to take advantage and you need to capitalize on the Jurassic Express this year. It is their year to become tag team champions. No excuses. We had the Best Friends versus the Butcher and the Blade. This was another damn good tag team match right here. The tag team division, man, it is the strongest point out of anything in AEW, bar none. The strongest tag team division in the world. Butcher and the Blade, they isolated Trent in the early portions of this matchup. Butcher actually had Chuck Taylor in his clutches before Trent got the hot tag. We had a swinging DDT and a spear on the outside to the Blade. Orange Cassidy and the Bunny actually got into it. The Bunny, she took Orange Cassidy's sunglasses and put them on, and Orange Cassidy took the Bunny's ears and put them on. Then we had the Butcher and the Blade actually getting involved before they were able to, or the Best Friends actually, they were able to gain over control. Orange Cassidy hit a suicide dive to the outside before the Best Friends hit Strong Zero for the win. Damn good match here, and we had Tony Schiavone interviewing Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends, talking about Revolution, and Chuck Taylor said that Pac made a big mistake because this time, Orange Cassidy, he's going to try. I actually thought that was hilarious right there. I thought that was hilarious, and Orange Cassidy just gave his normal Orange Cassidy thumbs up, and that was it. Yuka Sakazaki, Big Swole Shana, and Hikaru Shida this was another damn good match. The match quality for AEW Dynamite has been exceptional since the start. And the women's division especially, outside of the January 8th and the January 15th episode of Dynamite where we had that Nightmare Collective bullshit, outside of that, the women's division has been doing exceptional things. All four of these women brought it in this Fatal 4-Way, and we had the right winner. Big Swole, I have been loving what Big Swole is doing, what she's been doing. Yuka Sakazaki, she is pretty much like Riho in a sense, but she is a little bit more over, I would say, than Riho. I would say that Yuka Sakazaki has the same petite nature as Riho. She's lovable, she's small, she's quick, and she's fun to watch. Shauna is great. Shauna is extremely underrated. I think that Shauna is going to be a big player come 2021. And what could I say about Hikaru Shida? Hikaru Shida is their version of Asuka. Hikaru Shida is perhaps the best AEW women in the division, probably outside of Chris Statlander. We had back and forth between all four of these women to start off the match. Big Swole caught Hikaru Shida with a huge punt kick on the outside as Shida was going to launch herself off of her steel chair. We had Shida suplexing Shauna into Yuka as Yuka was tied up in the rope. Big Swole, she did a roundhouse kick to Shauna. Shauna ducked it. She did a leg sweep. Shauna jumped that, but Shauna was not able to dodge the headbutt from Big Swole. Slingshot cutter by Big Swole for a 2. Shauna with a butterfly facebuster on Yuka Sakazaki for a 2. Swole was hit with a splash from Yuka, and then Shida hit a Falcon Arrow to Yuka onto Big Swole for a 2 count there. Yuka Sakazaki was taken out momentarily, and Big Swole was on the receiving end of a running knee strike, and Shida won the Fatal 4-Way match, and she continues her momentum, and I can definitely see Hikaru Shida winning the AEW Women's Champion by Double or Nothing 2 on May 23rd. Lance Archer, yes! Lance Archer is debuting next week. I have seen his work in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I love the Texas Death Match against Jon Moxley, and I think that Lance Archer is going to be a major player in the AEW division. Again, they need that mid-card. They have a lot of talent, and they're going to need to get a mid-card on the show immediately. It is a big deal. It is a big deal that they get that mid-card on the show ASAP. You are not going to want to be shortchanged of anyone getting the proper opportunities. We had the Dark Order cutting a promo on SCU, and they actually said obsolete. So they're obviously trolling everyone about Matt Hardy being the Exalted One. We had an interview with Hangman, Omega, and the Young Bucks, which was very well done, and I loved everything about this. I love the tension within the Elite, and people are asking, why did the Young Bucks win the Tag Team Title Battle Royal? Storytelling. It's all in the story. They're telling the story of the dissension of the Elite, especially with Hangman. They're telling the story of how the Elite is splitting up because of the greed and the desire of wanting to be the best, and the best individuals in AEW are the champions. Omega and Hangman are the champions. And the dissension is going to come at Revolution tonight. Whether Hangman and Omega win or whether the Young Bucks win. The dissension is coming, and it's going to reach a peak tonight. It's all in the storytelling. For everyone that's complaining that, AEW doesn't have any storytelling, look at what they're doing with the Elite. They're telling the story that the Elite could be done. So we had the Young Bucks saying that, we didn't envision this when we first started this company. Hangman was being a prick about it, saying that, all of this happened by accident. Omega was kind of being the peacekeeper. Omega was being the unproblematic one. Omega didn't say anything wrong. The Young Bucks and Hangman, they got into it when the Young Bucks called Hangman a jobber in Ring of Honor. Hangman said he tried to leave the Elite and he wanted to make a name for himself on his own. Young Bucks called him a jobber in Ring of Honor, and we made you something here in AEW. Hangman ended up walking out, so, the tension's there. The tension is there, and I I've loved everything that they've told with the storyline between Hangman, Omega, and the Young Bucks ever since they won the tag team titles. It's definitely going to be something to look out for. We had the official AEW World Championship weigh-in. Chris Jericho called Gary, I can't remember what his last name was, but he called Gary a weird little man, saying that the champion, Le Champion, always goes last. So Moxley went first. He weighed in at 234 pounds. Jericho tells Kansas City to shut their ass. He kept talking, called a couple of heroes from Kansas City assholes or something like that. They got into a brawl. The Inner Circle came out. Jericho was actually busted open off of the headbutt from Moxley. Dustin Rhodes came out to fight Hager. Hager slammed Dustin Rhodes' head into a Dipping Dots stand. And the commentary team, they were getting on everyone's back. They were getting on their back saying, "Not the damn Dipping Dots," which I actually thought was very funny. Darby Allin then came out, and Sammy Guevara broke a skateboard over Darby Allin's head, which was great. The Inner Circle ended up standing tall ahead of Revolution, and that was pretty much it. They did an exceptional job at selling 3 matches for Revolution. They did an exceptional job at selling Revolution, period. And let me tell you something. Revolution, this could very well be better than TakeOver Portland. This could very well be better than TakeOver Portland. And I have never once tried to place AEW over NXT or NXT over AEW. I'm not trying to be biased here. I'm not trying to favorite anyone because that's not who I am. If it's good, I say it's good. If it's bad, then I will say it's bad. But AEW right now, they have been unfucking touchable. They've been untouchable since the start of 2020. So, could it be better than Portland? Very much so. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But anyway, let's move on to NXT. And this and NXT UK will probably be the last things that we will talk about that are actually positive here on the LFU. Dominik Dijakovic versus Cameron Grimes. This was a great match. And let me tell you, Cameron Grimes, one of the most, perhaps the most underrated guy that they got in NXT. Cameron Grimes is so fucking underappreciated, you have no idea. Every single time Cameron Grimes has been in the ring, the guy puts on a classic. Gargano, Matt Riddle, Kushida, Keith Lee, Dijakovic. The guy is absolutely exceptional at what he does. Whether you like his character or not, the guy puts on a classic every time he steps into the ring. And to be quite honest with you, I would not even mind if he gets a North American Championship match at TakeOver Tampa Bay against Keith Lee. It's going to be hard not to put him in a North American Championship match, or a championship match, period, if he keeps on putting on classics like this, and he won the match. Why not give him a North American Championship match? Dijakovic hit a cyclone kick for a 2. Dijakovic threw Grimes out of the ring. Grimes actually took over with a penalty kick. We had a super kick clothesline combination on Grimes for a 2. Grimes with an Everest German suplex for a close 2 count. Dijakovic with a moonsault. Still impresses me that Dijakovic could still do a moonsault. Damian Priest came out of nowhere while the referee was distracted and took out Dijakovic's knee with a nightstick. I thought that was great. Dijakovic was able to get back into the ring, but Cameron Grimes caught him with the cave-in, and Cameron Grimes wins. I thought this was an excellent way to kick off the show. Excellent way to start a new feud between Damian Priest and Dominik Dijakovic, and Damian Priest can get a win over Dominik Dijakovic, and Damian Priest more than likely will be the new North American champion by the summer against Keith Lee. Cameron Grimes, I can see him challenging for the North American Championship at TakeOver Tampa. I think that Cameron Grimes is well overdue for a championship match. I think that Cameron Grimes, if anyone came out of that NXT breakout tournament over the summer looking the strongest, it's Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes has amounted to possibly the most ever since the NXT breakout tournament. William Regal, he announced that at NXT TakeOver Tampa Bay there will be a ladder match to determine the number 1 contender for the NXT Women's Championship. And the qualifying matches will begin over the course of the next few weeks. I'm definitely looking forward to that. We had a North American Championship ladder match. We had a couple tag team title ladder matches. I think the women, they're going to deliver just as much as those two matches. The women's division in NXT, perhaps the best women's division that they got. But I'm not looking forward to Charlotte Flair being the champion that the winner ends up facing. Balor came out, he ran down all the things that he accomplished, and he says that he has been at his peak for 20 years. What's Finn Balor's next move? Imperium. Marcel Bartel and Fabian Eichner came out, says that Walter would like to send him his regards. Balor ended up striking first, but Imperium ended up taking out Balor with an uppercut and a huge knee strike, sending Balor into the steps. Balor versus Walter? I do not have any words for that, but Jesus, when and where? When and where? Whether it happens at TakeOver Tampa or it happens at TakeOver Dublin, more likely than not, it would make sense for it to happen at TakeOver Dublin, but if they want to get it on TakeOver Tampa, I wouldn't fucking mind it whatsoever. Although I don't really understand why they would build it on NXT and not NXT UK. I feel as though putting Finn Balor in there against Walter, even though Finn Balor's not really been tied up with Walter, is kind of shafting Ilya Dragunov, because realistically, you know, Ilya Dragunov is the correct man to take the title off of Walter, and he would be the correct man to face off against Walter at NXT TakeOver in Dublin. So I don't really understand where that would factor in Balor if Balor's just going to go into Dublin and lose. I mean, we'll see what happens. Regardless, it should be an excellent match, whether it takes place at Tampa or Dublin. I'm just looking to see how this plays out. I'm not really going to do much of a job at complaining or trying to predict it. I'm just going to wait and see how it plays out. I can't wait to see how this plays out. Xia Li versus Mia Yim. This was not really anything special. It was pretty academic. Xia Li with the clothesline and the thrust kicks to Mia Yim. Dakota Kai came out for a distraction. She distracted Yim. Yim looked like an idiot. And Xia Li rolls up Yim for the win. And Raquel Gonzalez takes out Yim and Xia Li. I don't really understand who would really care about Raquel Gonzalez. I mean, it honestly feels as though they're trying to make a female version of MJF and Wardlow in the NXT women's division. I feel as though NXT is trying to copy MJF and Wardlow in the women's division with this pairing between Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. This pairing between Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai, yes, it may seem interesting, it may seem new and fresh, but at the end of the day, what is Raquel Gonzalez going to amount to in NXT other than being Dakota Kai's bodyguard? Dakota Kai is the main star here. Dakota Kai is the newly turned heel. And more likely than not, Dakota Kai could very well end up winning this ladder match at NXT TakeOver Tampa. This new heel run could carry Dakota Kai to a possible NXT Women's Championship opportunity. What's Raquel Gonzalez going to amount to? I don't really see her amounting to anything. The Dream, as in Velveteen Dream, he was in the back, and he was talking about how William Regal should allow Roderick Strong to experience the Dream inside a steel cage. So next week, we got 2 steel cage matches. NXT really looking to turn it up for WrestleMania season. And the match was actually made. We have a steel cage match next week between Roderick Strong and the Velveteen Dream. So, moving on, we had Tommaso Ciampa versus Austin Theory. This was a damn good match here between Ciampa and Austin Theory. And let me tell you something, Austin Theory, he is definitely going to be a major star in NXT and in the WWE for years to come. The man is 22 years old, and the man is already putting on classics with Strong, putting on classics with Ciampa. He is going to be something, trust me. By the end of the year, Austin Theory is going to be in the North American Championship title picture. He is going to be put in a major spot in NXT. You take a look at what he's been doing in Evolve, you know that Austin Theory is going to be something special in NXT, especially when Triple H has control of him. We had Ciampa with a clothesline barrage here on Austin Theory, German suplex, and a knee strike combination to Theory. Theory's Rolling Thunder was actually countered by a jumping knee right under the chin, which looked brutal. We had Theory with a buckle bomb and a cross-legged brainbuster down to the knee for a 2 count. Theory hit his ataxia for a 2 count on Tommaso Ciampa. Ciampa, he was on the receiving end of the same thing that he did to Austin Theory last week, and he was thrown into the barricade. 1, 2, 3, 4. Austin Theory ended up throwing Tommaso Ciampa back into the ring. He took too much time. Ciampa hit Willow's bell and the fairy tale ending and got the win over Austin Theory here on NXT before Johnny Gargano came out and we had a big brawl with Tommaso Ciampa. The crowd was chanting Johnny Wrestling, Johnny sucks. And Johnny Gargano sat on the apron with Tommaso Ciampa right next to him and just did Tommaso Ciampa's slow clap. We still haven't gotten a reason as to why Johnny Gargano did what he did. We most likely not. We already know the reason. But regardless of that, this was a very well-produced match, very well-produced segment. And at this rate, Hell in a Cell, loser leaves NXT between Gargano and Ciampa, all but confirmed. Bronson Reed versus Killian Dane. This was decent. This wasn't really too special. I believe that Killian Dane is more likely than not going to be put into a North American Championship match. I definitely wouldn't mind seeing Killian Dane versus Keith Lee for the North American Championship. We had Bronson Reed with a suicide dive. Still impresses me that he can do a suicide dive. Dane and Reed, they both hit a double crossbody, both taken out for the moment. Bronson Reed with a leaping DDT off the middle rope and a Death Valley driver, dropping Dane right on his neck for a close 2 count. We had a superplex by Dane, and then Dane hit a Vader bomb. The hat trick of Vader bombs for the win. Decent match here. Win over Bronson Reed for Killian Dane. I can definitely see Killian Dane factoring into the North American Championship title picture very soon. The Grizzled Young Veterans versus the Forgotten Sons. This was a good tag team match here. The Grizzled Young Veterans now have won 5, I believe, out of their 6 tag team matches, and they also defeated The Hunt on NXT UK, which I will talk about. Grizzled Young Veterans, at this rate, the Grizzled Young Veterans could very well be the next NXT Tag Team Champions. They could very well make history and become the first team to win both the NXT and the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. At this rate, I wouldn't even mind if they get the matchup at TakeOver Tampa. They could very well get the matchup at TakeOver Tampa and win. Who knows? Steve Cutler, he was isolated by GYV. Blake got the hot tag. We had a power slam to James Drake. Cutler got the hot tag coming back from commercial, hit a butterfly backbreaker for a 2. Riker actually got involved, but Drake and Gibson sent him into the steps. They hit Ticket to Mayhem, and they defeated the Forgotten Sons. And Zach Gibson continues to state that they will soon to be recognized as the world's #1. Aside from The Dream and Roderick Strong, we also got Dakota Kai versus Tegan Nox in a steel cage match next week. I cannot wait for that. Bianca Belair versus Charlotte Flair. Listen, this was good. I'm not going to discredit the match. It was good, but what was the fucking point of that ending? That fucking ending with Bianca Belair taking a weak-ass natural selection. Charlotte Flair completely rushed that ending. She looked like she just wanted to get the fuck out of there immediately. Bianca Belair wasn't even in the correct position, and Charlotte Flair completely rushed that ending, and Bianca Belair had no choice but to roll through on that natural selection. It didn't even look impactful. And on top of that, you had Charlotte Flair take a chair, stomp Bianca Belair's leg in a steel chair, and then put her in the figure 8, making Bianca Belair look weak as fuck. Rhea Ripley came out, and if Rhea Ripley wanted to save Bianca Belair, she looked like a complete idiot just walking down, like what Becky Lynch did on Monday Night Raw, doing her entrance and shit, and that was pretty much it. This build for Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair is probably one of the most unexciting builds for a women's championship match I think I've seen in the modern era. This ending was dumb as shit. And it is disgusting that Bianca Belair has been shafted and pretty much tossed to the side for the sake of Charlotte Flair. For the sake of Charlotte Flair. This is why Charlotte Flair shouldn't even have won the Royal Rumble to begin with. Bianca Belair, more likely than not, should have been the next NXT Women's Champion after Ripley. Bianca Belair, more likely than not, she should have been the one facing off against Ripley at TakeOver Tampa. We could have gotten Dakota Kai versus Rhea Ripley at TakeOver Tampa, and Bianca Belair could have been the one to beat Ripley for the title at TakeOver Tampa. I'm sorry. TakeOver Portland was going to be Kai and Ripley, and then you could have gotten Bianca Belair winning the title from Rhea Ripley at TakeOver Tampa. If Io Shirai was already injured. I actually do have some news on Io Shirai when we get to the news, rumors, and reports section. Flair, she was in control of Bianca coming back from commercial. Bianca Belair hit a springboard moonsault on Flair. The ending was fucking ridiculous. Charlotte Flair channeled her inner fiend. She no-sold a spear from Bianca Belair, hit a spear and natural selection combination for the win. The match was good, but the ending was not good at all. The ending was sloppy, the ending was rushed, the ending had no impact, and the poor treatment of Bianca Belair is just inexcusable. I really don't see Bianca Belair factoring into anything on Monday Night Raw. I would have Bianca Belair go to SmackDown. The SmackDown Live Women's Division, they need something. They need some fucking star power. You put Bianca Belair on SmackDown. You have Bianca Belair go into SmackDown, and she can face off against Sasha Banks for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship at SummerSlam of this year. It would honestly make the most sense. And it would honestly be the best possible outcome for Bianca. NXT UK. This was before Super Showdown. I'm not going over Super Showdown, by the way, just so you know. But this was a damn good episode of NXT UK. I loved it. I love this episode of NXT UK. They are doing a great job at building nicely towards NXT TakeOver in Dublin. We had the Hunt versus the Grizzled Young Veterans. This was a good match to kick off the show. GYV, they took over control, cutting the ring in half on Wild Boar. Primate, he came in off the hot tag with a clothesline barrage, a spear for a 2 on James Drake, I believe it was. We had a neckbreaker super kick combination by the Grizzled Young Veterans for a 2. Double German suplexes by the Hunt. We had a Death Valley driver into a powerbomb combination by the Hunt for a 2, so some innovative tag team work by the Hunt. We had Ticket to Mayhem, and the Grizzled Young Veterans win. Grizzled Young Veterans, man, they need to be, I'm telling you, they need to be in top contention for the NXT tag team titles at some point this year. NXT needs tag teams. I think it was a great decision to include the Grizzled Young Veterans in the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, and I think it's a great idea to keep the Grizzled Young Veterans in the NXT tag team division going forward. This was a damn good match. Cassius Ohno versus Jack Stars. This was pretty much academic. Ohno, he was working on Jack Stars with the wrist lock, the joint manipulation. Stars was able to roll up Ohno for a 2. He got some offense in here and there, but Ohno applied the Cassius clutch for the win. I don't necessarily know where they're going with Cassius Ohno. I thought that they were going to institute Jordan Devlin as the mid-card champion in NXT UK with the Cruiserweight Championship, since a lot of people are under 205 pounds in NXT UK. Cassius Ohno, I could have seen him facing off against Walter, but I don't think Cassius Ohno is hot enough to face off against Walter at this stage in his career. That's why they really need a legitimate mid-card championship in NXT, and they need it now. Again, until they do it, I'm not going to stop saying it. They need it. They need it. Can't just have these guys floating around doing nothing. Ridge Holland will be in action next week, so interested to see what they do with Ridge Holland. He's got a great character, he's got a great look, he's powerful, he's very intense, but at the same point in time, I don't really know where they're going with him. I don't really know what he's going to amount to, considering there's no mid-card title, and Walter ain't losing that title anytime soon. Isla Dawn versus Eva Valkyrie was actually made for next week, as well as Travis Banks versus Alexander Wolf. So those two matches will take place next week. Can't wait to see those two matches. I could definitely see Travis Banks getting a victory over Wolf. I could definitely see Travis Banks fighting Jordan Devlin, perhaps for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship at TakeOver in Dublin. A-Kid versus the Brian Kendrick. This was a decent match, and I'm glad that A-Kid got the win over here. A-Kid is also another man I could see possibly challenging Jordan Devlin at TakeOver in Dublin. A-Kid is very underrated. A-Kid does hold a lot of value. A-Kid, he could definitely be a Daniel Bryan-esque character in NXT UK if they want to pair him against Walter, and they want to have A-Kid go up against Walter and possibly get the victory against Walter. We'll see how it plays out. But Brian Kendrick, he was using his scrappiness in the early portions of this matchup. A-Kid came back with a suicide dive and a moonsault off of the stairs. A-Kid with a crossbody for a 2. A-Kid was eventually caught in the captain's hook, but he reversed it into a wrist lock and then hit a Rey Mysterio-esque moonsault DDT off of the top rope. Brian Kendrick spiked on his head. Brian Kendrick gets the win. Or not Brian Kendrick gets the win. A-Kid gets the win over Brian Kendrick here. Decent match, and I can definitely see A-Kid amounting to a Cruiserweight title match down the line against Jordan Devlin. More likely than not at NXT TakeOver Dublin. It could be him, it could be Travis Banks. Regardless, Devlin, you know, is defending that title in Dublin. They wouldn't make the TakeOver in Dublin and not include Jordan Devlin on the card. Walter versus Mastiff for the NXT UK Championship. That is set for next week. That is a match I've definitely been looking forward to for a long, long time, and I can definitely see that match being a big hoss fight. And I can definitely see Walter and Mastiff being a very hard-hitting matchup. I definitely am interested to see where Walter goes after Mastiff, and definitely interested to see what Mastiff can do against a guy like Walter. Toni Storm versus Kaylee Ray, NXT UK Women's Championship match. It is an I Quit match. This was perfectly booked. Picture perfectly booked. And let me tell you something, it only went about 14 minutes, and I don't usually say things are perfectly booked, but this match was perfectly booked. This match did everything in its power to make Kaylee Ray seem like the biggest bitch, the most evil bitch in NXT UK and in the WWE. Kaylee Ray's heel work. You know, a lot of people, it's easy to point out Shayna Baszler as the best heel in all of the women's division. Some people may say Charlotte Flair. I mean, those people are idiots anyway, because Charlotte Flair, she's not being booed because of her heel work. She's being booed because she's constantly in the fucking title picture. It's go away heat, people. Same thing that Baron Corbin has. But Kaylee Ray, I'm telling you, Kaylee Ray needs to be in the conversation for best female heel in the wrestling business right now. If you're not watching NXT UK, you gotta start watching it. Kaylee Ray's heel work's been exceptional. Both women started out hot out of the gate. Storm was using the ropes in an octopus stretch, but Kaylee Ray did not quit. We had a table get brought out, frog splash through the table, but Kaylee Ray did not quit. We had a DDT off the apron by Kaylee Ray to Toni Storm to the floor. And this is where things started to get interesting. Kaylee Ray brought out duct tape. She brought out duct tape and duct taped Toni Storm's arms behind her back. Kaylee Ray took a chair and put the chair in Toni Storm's neck. The chair was wrapped around Toni's neck, and Toni was pretty much helpless. Sid Scala and Johnny Saint came out, and they were saying, like, look, enough is enough. But Kaylee Ray's like, no, I am ending this. I am ending this bitch. Stomped on Toni Storm's neck. Toni Storm would not quit. Piper Niven came out, and then Toni Storm, she was on the receiving end of a stomp when Kaylee Ray stomped from the top rope onto her neck on the steel chair. And Kaylee Ray was going to do it again. Toni Storm was going to do it again. But Piper Niven finally talked some sense into Toni Storm. And Toni quit. And Kaylee Ray was standing above everyone, holding the NXT Women's Championship above her head. Perfectly booked. Toni Storm is out. She's out of the NXT UK Women's Championship title picture. Kaylee Ray looks like the biggest bitch on the face of this planet. Now, you insert Piper Niven. And at NXT TakeOver Dublin, Piper Niven is your next NXT UK Women's Champion. They did an excellent job at booking this. Perfectly. If you're not watching NXT UK, start watching it. They're doing some great stuff. SmackDown. I really don't want to spend too much time talking about SmackDown. I'm already over an hour and 15 minutes. But there was nothing on this show that was redeeming whatsoever outside of a decent match between Kofi Kingston and Robert Roode. The SmackDown side of WrestleMania has single-handedly ruined WrestleMania, and I'm really going to talk about that once we get to the end portion of the SmackDown Live review. Goldberg kicked off the show and immediately was booed. He says it's always been about who's next. Roman came out, said, "I'm next." And that was it. For 10 minutes. That was it. And not only that, 1 hour later, WWE showcases a graphic stating Goldberg and Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Sheamus state in a backstage promo last week on SmackDown that he was entering the Elimination Chamber? But yet Roman Reigns, he comes out, says, "I'm next," and magically, is granted a Universal Championship match at WrestleMania. A little logic, please. Where are you? Hey, Logic, are you there? No? WWE could not make it any more obvious that they are on, and I mean on, Roman Reigns' dick anymore. They could not make it any more obvious that they are on Roman Reigns' dick than just having Roman go out there, state, "I'm next," and then he gets a Universal Championship match. Hell, if anything, I'm next. Where's my Universal Championship match? I'm next. And I'm going to talk more about this once we get to the end of SmackDown, because I got a lot to say. Bayley says that she shouldn't even have to face Naomi. We were set for a rematch between Bayley and Naomi. Bayley said that she shouldn't even have to face Naomi. She introduced Sasha. Sasha came out. We had Naomi and Bayley ending in a DQ as Sasha interfered. And then Lacey, she came out. She actually botched a plancha after the tag team match was made. Lacey got the hot tag. We had a slingshot elbow, springboard crossbody by Naomi. Naomi ended up pinning Bayley in a roll-up for a win. So Sasha Banks in her hometown of Boston loses. I swear to God, at this rate, I don't have any faith in WWE to make the right decision and to give Sasha Banks a win inside the Elimination Chamber. I have zero faith in them. With this pin, Naomi should realistically face Bayley at the Elimination Chamber. Bayley should retain, and then we should have Sasha and Bayley at WrestleMania. But I don't even have any faith in WWE to make the right decision. And matter of fact, I'm going to say it right now. Sasha Banks is the biggest idiot on the face of this planet for signing a new deal with this company. Her treatment ever since the loss to Becky Lynch at Hell in a Cell has been piss poor. She's probably in a worse position than she was originally in. Ridiculous. I have no faith that they're going to make Sasha and Bayley for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship at WrestleMania. If anyone but Sasha gets that match at WrestleMania, the SmackDown Live Women's Championship match and the title picture in general at WrestleMania is irrelevant. At this rate, I wouldn't even be surprised if they gave it to Lacey Evans again. Kofi Kingston versus Robert Roode. This was single-handedly the best thing on the show. Decent match for what it was, but it's not really something that I'm going to go back and watch and be captivated over, but it was a decent match, single-handedly the best thing on the show. Robert Roode, he faked an injury, and Big E ended up getting thrown out. Robert Roode, he missed a knee drop. Kofi came back, hit a boom drop, and a springboard crossbody for a 2. We had a full Nelson slam by Robert Roode, and Kofi kicked out. SOS on Roode, but Dolph put Roode's foot on the bottom rope, and Roode rolled up Kofi Kingston for the win after a distraction. Decent match, nothing too special, and that was pretty much it. Otis and Tucker, they were talking in the back, and Tucker said, it's time to let Mandy go. An unfortunate set of circumstances, it's time to let Mandy go, and next week, they'll be looking to get back the love from the WWE Universe. We had an Intercontinental Championship contract signing. It was originally supposed to be Braun Strowman versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Although, we've seen the match twice, so I don't understand how anyone would even care to see it a third time. This doesn't make the Elimination Chamber show any better. It actually made it worse. Sami said he wanted to review the contract because he has constantly been getting mistreated, as well as Cesaro and Nakamura. Sami says that Strowman should be ashamed for power slamming Nakamura onto a grand piano. Strowman said that everyone is sick and tired of hearing Sami bitch and moan. The three of them were all going to end up fighting Strowman at the same time anyway. Strowman says he's always going to end up having to fight them all at the same time, so it doesn't really matter. Sami then twisted Braun Strowman's words, and he signed the contract, Cesaro signed the contract, and Nakamura signed the contract. It is now a 3-on-1 handicap match as Braun Strowman defends the title against all three men. Big brawl got into play, and Strowman got suplexed through a table. A handicap match for a singles championship is one of the dumbest concepts that the company has ever produced. They didn't even explain the rules. What happens if Sami Zayn or Cesaro pins Braun Strowman? Does that mean that they become the Intercontinental Champion? How the fuck does this work? This concept is undoubtedly one of the dumbest concepts I think I've ever seen. This match only makes the Elimination Chamber worse. This Elimination Chamber card looks so piss poor. So piss poor. WrestleMania season, I honestly could not give a single shit about WrestleMania season. Outside of Drew McIntyre and Lesnar and Shayna and Becky, this year's WrestleMania looks like it's going to be just as worse as WrestleMania 32. Goldberg versus Roman Reigns. Goldberg versus Roman Reigns was confirmed. I already talked about that, and I will talk about that more once we get to the Cena-Wyatt issue. Daniel Bryan versus Curtis Axel. Drew Gulak was on commentary. Daniel Bryan made Curtis Axel tap to the yes lock. Who cares? If they do Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak at WrestleMania, man, Drew Gulak has been buried since October. If they do Drew Gulak versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania, man, has Daniel Bryan fallen so far from grace. You're pairing him with Drew Gulak after Drew Gulak has no value whatsoever, regardless of how good the match is going to be. Match will probably be 5 minutes anyway at WrestleMania. Where the fuck is Daniel Bryan going for WrestleMania? He's won 4 matches in a row as of lately. Where's he going? Miz and Morrison, they came out to address the crowd. Miz says that the only thing that they hear is the sweet sound of victory. They sing their Hey Hey Ho Ho Miz and Morrison song. And then Greg Hamilton announced that it's going to be a tag team title elimination chamber. It's going to be the Usos, Miz and Morrison, Heavy Machinery, Lucha House Party, New Day, and Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler. The WWE needs to do a better job at scheduling their pay-per-views. The fact that they have 2 pay-per-views within a week of one another, and they have little to no time to build these shows, is ridiculous. You have these Saudi Arabian shows. Why put a Saudi Arabian show smack dab in the middle of WrestleMania season when you have the Elimination Chamber to build towards? You don't need it. Super Showdown was unnecessary. And it's because of this that they have to randomly announce matches. The announcement of random matches, especially championship matches, is ridiculous. I mean, more likely than not, this tag team title elimination chamber could possibly be the best match of the night. But regardless, the fact that it was just made out of thin air is just stupid. So the Usos came out and we get a match. Jimmy Uso caught Morrison with an enziguri, Morrison with a springboard, enziguri, classic John Morrison for a 2. We had a double stomp neckbreaker combination on Jimmy for a 2. Morrison got the knees up on the splash, rolled up Jimmy for a 2. Miz was taken out with the super kick, and we had a Canadian Destroyer Uso splash combination for the win. And that was it. So, on your first night as tag team champions, you have Miz and Morrison lose. Are you trying to kill your characters? Bray Wyatt thinks so, after what he responded to. Cena returned to SmackDown. Cena got the crowd hyped up, and there's no one that can get a crowd hyped up like John Cena, and I will admit that. Cena asks what he's doing for WrestleMania. He knows how hard it is to work for a WrestleMania moment. He always listens to the WWE Universe, and he says that he'll be doing the right thing and saying that this WrestleMania should go on without John Cena, and he prepares to leave. So you have John Cena say that WrestleMania should go on without him, and then you have Cena stand face-to-face with The Fiend, and The Fiend looks like a complete idiot, completely forgetting about what happened with Goldberg and the Universal Championship 24 hours ago, points to the WrestleMania sign, and Cena just tips his cap, and that was it. The promo did sound great. Cena's great at delivering his promos, and the visual of The Fiend pointing at WrestleMania and Cena tipping his cap instead of a brawl, that was actually pretty cool. But at the same point in time, you have Cena say, oh, WrestleMania should go on without me. And then he accepts a match with The Fiend. Goldberg winning the Universal Championship from The Fiend. One of the worst creative decisions, probably the worst creative decision of the year thus far. Right up there with Charlotte Flair winning the Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns and Bill Goldberg could have easily had a match at WrestleMania without the Universal Championship. Why did Bill Goldberg win the Universal Championship from Roman Reigns? And it ties into Cena and The Fiend. Vince McMahon can't help himself. Can't help the fact that he wants Roman Reigns as Universal Champion again. And he will stop at nothing to get Roman cheered at WrestleMania in a World Championship match after a victory. He willingly sacrificed one of the hottest characters that WWE has ever produced in the modern era to have Bill Goldberg win the title, and he would be booed, which he was booed. And it seemed to be working. The master plan of Vince McMahon seemed to be working, but on night one of this plan, the cracks are already starting to show. What happened when Roman Reigns' music stopped? The crowd in Boston booed both men. Not one, both men were booed. Only further proving that it does not matter who you put Roman Reigns against. Could be Bill Goldberg, could be The Fiend, could be John Cena, could be Daniel Bryan, could be Baron Corbin, could be anyone. Could be anyone. Roman Reigns will never be fully accepted as a babyface world champion. Roman Reigns has been shitting the bed as a babyface since 2015. Nothing will ever get Roman Reigns as a babyface over after what they've done to him. The only reason why Roman Reigns has been getting cheered is because WWE made Roman Reigns' cancer sound more severe than it really was. And yes, I emphasize severe. I don't need to be a fucking doctor to know that no living being with a severe case of leukemia can come back within 4 months. Roman Reigns' cancer was not severe. The doctors, they knew what to do this time around because Roman already had it, so they gave him the proper medication, and they caught it very early, and thank God they did. Thank God that they caught it early before it became severe. and Roman Reigns was able to go on television shows, make a movie, go to football games, Roman Reigns wouldn't have been able to do that in this 4-month period, and he wouldn't have been able to come back in 4 months if this cancer was severe. The cancer was not severe at all. WWE made it sound like Roman Reigns was on his deathbed. And then on top of that, after he came back, the only reason why he was being cheered was because he wasn't in the world title picture. You take a look at what's going on with John Cena and The Fiend right now, and why is anyone going to care? Why is anyone going to be invested in a John Cena Fiend match, regardless of if the story is there? And the story is there. But on top of that, why is anyone going to care about the possibility of John Cena beating The Fiend after The Fiend's already lost? The Fiend lost! It's over! The mystique and the aura of The Fiend is gone. The legitimacy of The Fiend is gone. The specialness of The Fiend is gone. It doesn't just have to do with the Universal Championship. It has to do with the fact that The Fiend was built up like a monster. The Fiend was built up like a fucking monster. He was battered and bruised with ladders and chairs, put through tables, thrown off of a fucking stage into electrical equipment that blew up. He was battered with toolboxes and sledgehammers, curb stomp after curb stomp after curb stomp. The man was whipped in the chest by Daniel Bryan just a month ago numerous times, and he no-sold it. And he came back from all of that and won. And because of 4 spears and a botched half-assed jackhammer, he was beaten in 3 minutes. Beaten in 3 minutes. How does that make any sense whatsoever? How is anyone going to take The Fiend legitimate? And how is anyone going to take The Fiend seriously now after he was beaten in 3 minutes by 4 spears and a half-assed jackhammer after everything that I just named that he came back from? The fact that The Fiend was built up to be such a monster means that he should have remained that. You were going to have to do more than just 4 spears and a half-assed jackhammer in order for Bray Wyatt's loss to be legitimate. And on top of that, there was only one man that was worthy of beating The Fiend. One man that would make sense, one man that would have benefited, and one man that would have gotten a babyface reaction for the fucking ages. And that man was Daniel Bryan. And that should have happened either at WrestleMania, or if you were going to do Cena and Wyatt at WrestleMania, it should have happened after WrestleMania. The Fiend's been humanized. The Fiend's already lost. I mean, yeah, the build could be very well produced, but once we get the finished product, and once we get the final matchup at WrestleMania 36 between John Cena and The Fiend, how is anyone going to be fully invested in it, regardless of the reaction that it got at the end of SmackDown? And the only reason why it got that reaction was the fact that John Cena got the crowd hyped up in the beginning. Once we get the finished match, the finished product, the final match, the final step, the final piece to the puzzle, why is anyone going to care? Why is anyone going to why is anyone going to get up and cheer? Why is anyone going to be invested in this match at all? Once we get it at WrestleMania, how is anyone going to keep their eyes glued and wait in awe of what's going to happen when more likely than not, this match is probably one of the most predictable matches on the show, outside of Roman and Goldberg. And some people are trying to justify this by saying, oh, the match doesn't need the Universal Championship. Oh, The Fiend never needed the Universal Championship. The Fiend should have never gotten a Universal Championship reign. That fact is irrelevant. That's irrelevant. That argument is the most invalid argument that you could possibly put forth. The fact of the matter is, whether they should have or shouldn't have, they did it. They did it, and the moment that they did, The Fiend became a priority. The reason why they gave The Fiend the Universal Championship was as an apology for what happened at Hell in a Cell. If you weren't going to give The Fiend the Universal title at Hell in a Cell, then The Fiend should have never even been in a Universal Championship matchup at Hell in a Cell to begin with. Yes, you're right. And regardless of whether The Fiend should have or should not have won the Universal title, they did it. He became a priority. He should have been protected. He should have been built up. And he should have been made to look legitimate as ever for Daniel Bryan, because Daniel Bryan was the only legitimate superstar on the SmackDown Live roster that would have benefited from beating The Fiend and would have gotten a legitimate babyface reaction for beating The Fiend. The story would have been much better, and it's not just the Universal Championship. Obviously, Cena chasing 17 would have added a lot more to the story, and on top of that, Bray Wyatt trying to prevent Cena from doing what he did at WrestleMania 30 and trying to destroy his career again, that would have made the match itself that much more interesting, and what they did in the ring would have been a lot more entertaining in the eyes of everyone if it was for the championship and The Fiend still had his aura intact. It's not just the Universal Championship. It's the fact that the aura of The Fiend is gone. They killed it. They gave the accolade of beating The Fiend to Goldberg. And on top of that, here's something that you need to think about. Here's something you need to think about. What's going to happen? What's going to happen if this backlash gets so big for Goldberg and Roman Reigns? Because we all know that match, if that match goes over 3 minutes, if that match is not 3 minutes, and we get something similar to what we got at WrestleMania 34 with Roman and Lesnar, they are turning on that matchup worse than they turned on Roman and Lesnar at WrestleMania 34. If that match between Goldberg and Roman is not 3 minutes and done, I'm telling you right now, that match is going to be looked at as one of the worst matches of the year, and the people are going to turn on that match in an instant. We're going to get CM Punk chants, we're going to get beach balls, we're going to get "this is awful" chants, just like we got at WrestleMania 34, and it's all going to be well-deserved. But think about this for a minute. Hypothetically speaking, let's just say the backlash gets so big that they're going to have to put Bray Wyatt in the Universal Championship title picture after WrestleMania. And let's say Bray Wyatt goes on to get his rematch after he faces Cena. Let's just say Bray Wyatt beats Cena and goes on to fight Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship in a rematch after WrestleMania. And Bray Wyatt's going to go and get back the Universal Championship. Bray Wyatt's on a quest to reclaim the title. If the backlash gets so big that they have no choice but to give Bray Wyatt his rematch, do you honestly think that they'll do the right thing and try and rectify what they did at Super Showdown by giving Bray Wyatt a second Universal Championship reign? This is Roman Reigns we're talking about. Vince McMahon has been foaming at the mouth. Vince McMahon's been salivating to give Roman Reigns the Universal Championship back since Roman came back. Vince McMahon would have gladly gifted the Universal title to Roman Reigns on a silver platter the moment that Roman came back from leukemia. It's been over a year. Vince McMahon has been waiting and waiting and waiting to do it. Do you honestly think that after Roman wins the title at WrestleMania, do you honestly think that they're going to drop it to Bray Wyatt and they're going to give it to Bray Wyatt after a month-long reign for Roman Reigns as Universal Champion? Bray Wyatt, more likely than not, if he is inserted into the Universal title picture after WrestleMania and he faces Roman, he's going to receive two burials in 2 months. There is nothing that anyone can say that even justifies Goldberg winning the championship. I don't care whether you're a part of the industry, I don't care whether you're a wrestler, whether you're a YouTuber, a content creator, a podcaster, or you're just a plain flat-out old wrestling fan that just watches because they like to watch. There is not a single solitary thing that anyone can say that would rectify Bill Goldberg winning the Universal Championship. Whether the Fiend needed the title or not is irrelevant. Fiend and the aura, the specialness, the character that is the Fiend is dead. It's over. I saw all sorts of tweets on the timeline. No one cares. I don't care. I don't care about the Fiend. And before I move on to 205 Live, there's one more thing I want to say. I saw a tweet. I can't remember exactly who it was from or what exactly it said, but it said something along the lines of WWE they sacrifice the future for these nostalgia acts. But they don't even realize that if they fail to build up the future to fill those shoes, they're not going to have any nostalgia in 20 years. And I'm thinking to myself, motherfucker, that could not be more true. What is WWE going to do when people like The Undertaker and Bill Goldberg are in wheelchairs by the time they're 65? What are you going to do at WrestleMania 50? You're going to have Bill Goldberg and The Undertaker for the Universal Championship when they're both 70 years old? Why are you killing the future? And why are you burying some of your greatest characters and not filling the shoes of the past? How come these characters are not getting to the levels of those people that were once so great in the past, like Goldberg or Stone Cold or The Undertaker or Triple H? Why? Why are you sacrificing them just because you can't get over the fact that your guy, Roman Reigns, your guy is a complete flop as the face of the company? My throat is fucking killing me. Moving on. 205 Live was actually a damn good show. I'm not even gonna lie. Fucking losing. I'm losing my voice, and it's like 1 p.m. By the time you see this, it's probably gonna be like 3:30, 4 o'clock. Raul Mendoza versus Joaquin Wilde. This was actually a damn good match. We had a couple of damn good matches. It was just a half-hour show, and then after this, we're gonna get into the news, rumors, and reports. We had a Hurricane Rana off of the steps to the floor, mule kick by Joaquin Wilde. We had a roll-through code breaker. Raul Mendoza came back with a chop on the top rope. He went for a fireman's carry, but Joaquin Wilde caught him with a Hurricane Rana from the top. Mendoza got his foot on the rope. Spanish Fly for a 2. Fisherman Driver for a 2. And Joaquin Wilde ended up countering a move from Mendoza. I believe he countered a Lion Salt from Mendoza, and he hit the Wild Thing for the 1, 2, 3. And that was it. So I can definitely see Joaquin Wilde in an interim championship title defense against Jordan Devlin. I definitely want to see that. Joaquin Wilde's very underrated in my eyes. In 2 weeks, we got the Captain's Challenge. It's going to be Team NXT. It's going to be Lio Rush, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, Isaiah Swerve Scott, and I believe one more person. I can't remember exactly who it was. I actually didn't write it down. But then on 205 Live side, we got Tony Nese, Mike Kanellis, Arya Daivari, the Brian Kendrick, and Jack Gallagher. Speaking of Jack Gallagher, Jack Gallagher actually returned. He returned with a new look. He's got an entire sleeve on this arm, and he's got a British ship tattooed across his chest. And he's actually growing in some more facial hair. It's not just the handlebar mustache. He's growing in some more facial hair around the area. So Jack Gallagher actually looks like a badass. We had Tony Nese and Lio Rush in the main event. We had a springboard Hurricane Rana. Lio Rush was caught with a spinning heel kick. Spinning corkscrew plancha to the outside to Nese. Rush had Nese in his sights until Mike Kanellis got involved. All ahead of the Captain's Challenge in 2 weeks. Jack Gallagher returned, and Jack Gallagher stood tall with the 205 Live OGs, outside of Mike Kanellis, because Mike Kanellis is not a 205 Live OG. That was pretty much it for 205 Live. Nothing too special on 205 Live. Moving on to the news, rumors, and reports, as we are approaching 2 hours here on the Lightning Flash Update. During a PW Insider Elite audio, Mike Johnson said that he believes Matt Hardy will stay with WWE as they have offered him a spot in NXT. He states, and I quote, "By the way, we have a lot of questions about Matt Hardy. His contract is scheduled to be up on March 1st, which is tomorrow. A lot of people have asked me what he's going to be doing. This is just my theory. I know that WWE has made a lot of overtures to him in the last couple of weeks. There's been some talk of him working in the NXT system somehow. My gut feeling is that Matt Hardy will probably stay." if he's working in the NXT system, that is probably the last resort for WWE right there. And it sucks because working for NXT should not be someone's last resort in order to stay. What happens when Matt Hardy is done with NXT? Is he going to retire as a part of NXT? Is he going to be working as a producer? Is he going to be working as an in-ring competitor? I don't necessarily know. But I don't really understand why WWE would resort to this. You do realize that it's all on them. It's all on you, WWE. All you had to do was book Matt Hardy better. All you had to do was utilize Matt Hardy. All you had to do was give Matt Hardy the creative freedom to do what we know Matt Hardy can do best. And you didn't do that. So at the end of the day, it is all on WWE. It's all on WWE. I don't really know what's going to happen, but as far as I'm concerned, Matt Hardy's as good as gone. I have not heard any reports of Matt Hardy wanting to stay. I have not heard any reports regarding Matt Hardy staying. I have not heard any reports about Matt Hardy signing a new deal, negotiating a new deal. Matt Hardy's gone. After everything that they put Matt Hardy through, he's gone. Moving on. I actually have a Facebook post from former WWE star superstar Billy Graham. He actually wrote on his Facebook in regards to Vicky Guerrero not being able to book WWE guests on her podcast due to an AEW appearance. He states, or he wrote, and I quote, "This scumbag bastard, Vince McMahon, has blocked Vicky Guerrero from using any of his so-called superstars on her podcast because she went on an AEW Chris Jericho cruise ship tour. This man has to be the single most evil human being walking the face of the earth. To deny a woman's right to make a living when her husband gave his life to this unworthy pile of dung. He won't let her have any of his talent to simply sit and talk on a podcast while this coming Thursday," as he posted this before Super Showdown, "this coming Thursday, February 27th, he will be putting on a show in Saudi Arabia with his partner, the King Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salim, who will be paying him $50 million for this one-night show, and, oh, yes, personally ordered the murder and dismemberment of American journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This ever-greedy Vince will take $50 million soaked in Khashoggi's blood, but won't let Vicky Guerrero make some nickels and dimes doing a podcast. What a two-faced, selfish bastard that will burn in hell." Now, I absolutely agree with everything that Billy Graham said, outside of the fact that Vince is going to burn in hell. I mean, I would not wish anyone to burn in hell, but what can I say that Billy Graham hasn't already said? It's petty. It's petty. Vince McMahon is so fucking petty that he would not let Vicky Guerrero have anyone on her podcast simply for an AEW appearance. It's honestly bullshit. It's bullshit. I don't really know what to say in regards to that. I just thought it would be interesting to share what Billy Graham thinks, even though I don't usually agree with what Billy Graham states, how he states that Kofi Kingston should have taken steroids. Most of the time, Billy Graham's an idiot when it comes to modern-day WWE, but in this instance, outside of the burn in hell part, I agree with what Billy Graham said. Dave Meltzer discussed Samoa Joe's recent injury. Now, in regards to Samoa Joe, I don't know what's going on with Samoa Joe because this was reported before WWE tweeted out that on Tuesday, they sent out a tweet regarding Samoa Joe stating that he'd been suspended for 30 days, beginning on February 24th, for his first violation of the wellness policy. Before this, Dave Meltzer discussed Joe's recent injury and talked about how Vince is starting to see Joe as fragile. He stated, "Now here's the thing. Now we're on risky ground because now we've had 2 concussions in a short period of time, and that's when it becomes really concerning." So obviously, after a certain point in time, Vince McMahon starts to see certain stars as fragile. And Samoa Joe, obviously being 42, obviously he's going to seem a little fragile in the eyes of Vince McMahon. But At this rate, I don't even know what's going on with Joe. 1 minute he's injured, the next minute he's suspended, clarifying WrestleVotes' claim. I don't know what's going on. Could it be an injury? Could it be a suspension? Maybe it is a suspension. Maybe it is a suspension, but perhaps the injury was real, and the suspension, more likely than not, WWE thought to themselves, hey, you know what? Samoa Joe's injured. He's going to be out for a considerable amount of time. Might as well just put this suspension out there so that way he'll serve it while he's recovering from injury. My guess. Meltzer also stated that there are a few matches that could be taking place at TakeOver Tampa. He stated that we could see Lee versus Balor, and if that's the case, then Finn Balor versus Walter will more than likely take place at NXT UK TakeOver Dublin. He stated we could also possibly see Velveteen Dream versus Adam Cole, Gargano versus Ciampa, and Sasha Banks versus Io Shirai at the event. Now, Io Shirai, more likely than not, is coming back at the end of March. So she'll be good for NXT TakeOver Tampa. And now, Sasha Banks and Io Shirai sounds like perhaps the best women's match of the year if these two are given time. But you're putting Sasha Banks and Io Shirai on NXT TakeOver Tampa. What does that mean for WrestleMania? I have no problem seeing Sasha Banks and Io Shirai, even though it doesn't really make sense and it's kind of a random match they're thrown together. But at the same point in time, why are you going to put Sasha Banks on NXT TakeOver? Why are there plans for Sasha to compete on an NXT TakeOver show, but there aren't any plans for her to compete at WrestleMania for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship? And I'm hearing Lacey, then I'm hearing Naomi. Why is it that Sasha Banks is everywhere except for where she should be? That's the only thing that concerns me. Now, the card in itself sounds great. The card in itself sounds great, but this match confuses the shit out of me because why are you booking Sasha Banks and Io Shirai at an NXT TakeOver show, but yet you're not booking Sasha Banks at WrestleMania? And there's been no talks and no plans to have Sasha Banks at WrestleMania competing against Bayley for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship when that is the best possible match that you can do, even if it's not going to create what we saw at TakeOver in Brooklyn back in 2015. It's stupid. It's honest to God stupid. I don't know what's going on as far as that goes, but I'll keep you guys posted on that. My final report before we get out of here, because we're going over 2 hours here. Probably my longest edition of the Lightning Flash update outside of the live edition that I did a few weeks back. According to WrestleNews Co., the current plan for Drew McIntyre after WrestleMania, after his win over Brock Lesnar and him winning the WWE Championship, there are plans in place to have McIntyre's post-feud be with Seth Rollins. He is one of those individuals that is planned for the summertime against Drew McIntyre. I don't know why we are even talking about Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre as far as a program for the WWE Championship goes. You need to think about this for a minute. From July of 2018 to February of 2019, Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins fought somewhere between 10 and 20 times on Monday Night Raw. They did this feud to absolute death. They did the match to absolute death. Drew McIntyre winning the WWE Championship from Brock Lesnar and being put against Seth Rollins, that would ultimately make his WWE Championship reign nothing more than a reign filled with recycled programs. Filled with recycled programs and recycled feuds. And on top of all that, this is 1 year too late. This is 1 year too late. This program should have been the Universal Championship program going into SummerSlam of last year. Not Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins. Brock Lesnar winning Money in the Bank was one of the worst decisions that WWE could have made in 2019. And I don't even think you guys realize the chain of events that were started with Brock Lesnar winning Money in the Bank. Ali and Andrade were both shafted. Ali hasn't been seen on television after his nothing feud with Shinsuke Nakamura. Andrade had to wait 7 more months in order to get a championship reign in the form of a United States Championship reign, and even then, they haven't been doing him any justice as United States Champion. Drew McIntyre, he was placed as Shane McMahon's lackey in a nothing feud with Roman Reigns, and he was pretty much put in a position to which he was emasculated. Drew McIntyre was emasculated in that feud with Roman Reigns as Shane McMahon's lackey. And then he lost the first round of the King of the Ring tournament, and he didn't even start to get back on track until the end of November. Drew McIntyre should have gone into Super Showdown of last year against Brock Lesnar, and he should have beaten Brock Lesnar. Then he could have been built up throughout the course of the summer to face off against Rollins at SummerSlam of 2019, and he should have been Universal Champion then. I don't even think you realize, after Seth Rollins beat Brock Lesnar a second time, we got that horrendous fucking ending at Hell in a Cell with The Fiend being piled on with toolboxes and ladders and chairs and sledgehammers, and then only to get up afterwards, after the Hell in a Cell ended in a non-finish, giving you one of the worst endings to a WWE pay-per-view, probably in its history. All of that could have been avoided. All of that could have been avoided if WWE did not give Lesnar the Money in the Bank briefcase. And they would have put the title on Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam. Drew McIntyre, he's been well overdue for a World Championship match for God knows how long. Why is anyone going to care about this after we've already seen it between 10 and 20 times, and it's 1 year too late? This match should have been the Universal title match at SummerSlam of last year. No one's going to care, no matter if the roles are reversed. Seth Rollins doesn't belong in the World Championship title picture until the end of the year, beginning of 2021. Seth Rollins is not needed in the World Championship title picture. He overstayed his welcome because of his stupid-ass interview comments and the booking that WWE gave him towards the end of 2019. There are plenty of other individuals for Drew McIntyre to feud with. You could do Randy Orton, do Samoa Joe, you could do Kevin Owens, you could do Aleister Black. Why do we need to have Seth Rollins in the world title picture? And what is Seth Rollins going to do in the course of the next 2 months after he eventually loses the Raw Tag Team titles? What is he going to do to make you believe that he deserves to be competing again for the WWE Championship? It's stupid. It's ridiculous. One of the most unnecessary things that WWE could possibly do is put Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins in there. We have absolutely no place for Seth Rollins in the world title picture. You're really going to have McIntyre and Rollins go in there at SummerSlam this year when it should have happened at SummerSlam of last year, instead of actually giving us something new, possibly giving us a match with Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens, with Kevin Owens finally getting his due and winning the WWE Championship. Or you're going to pass up a match between Drew McIntyre and Aleister Black and the potential chance to build up a new star by giving Aleister Black the WWE Championship. Aleister Black right now, he's still remained unpinned and unsubmitted. Where the fuck is his championship match? What is he going to be doing at WrestleMania? Why hasn't Aleister Black been in any championship title contention ever since he got called up to the main roster? He's been doing nothing but winning and winning and winning and winning and winning and winning and winning. Put him in the world title picture! It's the same old recycled bullshit with this company. They will never learn. But ladies and gentlemen, good Lord. If I don't see 20 plus likes, and if I don't see 100 plus views, 200, 300 views on this Lightning Flash update, I am going to be out for blood. I am going to be sorely disappointed in every single one of you. Jesus. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this edition of the Lightning Flash Update. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go home. I'm going to eat some lunch. I am going to get ready for Revolution. I'll be watching it over at my buddy's house. And then after I come back, I'm going to be studying a lot for my intermediate accounting and taxation exams. Same thing as I mentioned next week, no Lightning Flash Update. It will be the rundown for Elimination Chamber with Mr. Earl Cole. Shout out to him. You are not going to want to miss it. I will be appearing on No Show Wrestling Podcast. At No Show Wrestling is their Twitter. Send questions to them regarding me to their inbox. And on the 21st, I will be collaborating with Miss Smiley Baby Boo Boo. CM Smiley, shout out to her. She's got her own podcast that she's going to be bringing back. And the 25th, I will be appearing at Dynamite. If you are interested, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Instagram, maybe up on Facebook. All the links are in the description. We can do a fan interview. You can be on my vlog. We can meet up. We can talk. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a very fun time. You are not going to want to miss out on it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms. This has been the Lightning Flash Update. My voice is shot. You guys have an awesome weekend.